it's been an interesting month so far. Lots going on in the world of Hassan Hasanabi Piker. Just a bunch of annoying things that I'm on the receiving end of as liberalism crumbles and turns slowly but surely into unrestrained fascism. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. We're going to get into all of that and more. Can't you still go on a regular tourist visa? Guys, can I ask you a serious question? The ETA is the basic visa that Americans receive. If the government has made a big show of not giving me a giving me a regular visa, an ETA, and then revoking it, what makes you think that they're going to be fine? They're going to be like, oh my God, you're the guy we deliberately revoked the visa on after giving it to you. I'm sure the Home Office, after the initial intervention, is going to turn around and be like, oh, step right in, sir. No, that's a long and convoluted legal process that I have to get involved with. It's certainly not going to work in this, it's not going to work this time around. But if there's something I need to do in the future, I have to hire, I assume, a British lawyer and fight this. I heard Ash Sarkar, who was hosting that talk, is pulled out of South by Southwest. Yes. South by Southwest has been disgraceful in this entire process. I'll talk about that too. It was supposed to be me, Zara, and Andrew Epstein, also from the Zoran campaign, now with Claire Valdez. And part of what we were going to talk about is an attack on the media, but also how young, vibrant candidates could potentially win elections and all this stuff, right? We had a really fun conversation that we set up, and Ash was supposed to be the moderator. However, because South by Southwest is a very popular brand in the UK, or this is a big deal for the UK. This is the second year they're doing it or something. I don't really know. And they had asked me, and I was doing it as a favor to South by Southwest because some friends that I trust wanted me to do it. So I was like, sure, I'll attend. I'm already going to be in the UK. I'm already going to be doing Oxford Union. I already have some other stuff going on. And it's not like they're paying me, right? I'm not getting paid by Southwest to do this, right? It's actually really insane. I'm doing this as a favor. And they're literally farming donations off of my image, off of my likeness. And then it's crazy that when the Home Office intervened and revoked my visa, South by Southwest's statement was disgusting. It was literally nothing. To us, they were sorry, we have to abide by the government's demands. That was one. And then their public thing was they just deleted my background page. They just deleted my speaker page. As though they hit me with the Trotsky cut. I couldn't believe it. It's bitch, who the fuck are you? Are you kidding me? I mean, seriously, I'm doing this as a favor. They get to literally farm tickets off of my likeness to be oh, you want to come listen to Hassan? I even set up the talk myself, and then they just turn around, chop it down. They didn't even try to be yeah, this is a little bit ridiculous, don't you think? British government. Basically, the British government, after a bunch of Israel First advocacy groups that masquerade as Jewish advocacy groups on the earlier this month, called on the UK to bar dangerous Hassan Piker amid anti-Semitic attacks, saying far-left streamer with a record of anti-Semitism and October 7th denial is set to speak and record a live podcast in London in early June. Last week, Jewish organizations, the Community Security Trust, urged South by Southwest organizers to act responsibly and to not allow the UK to be a platform for Piker. They got their wishes across. Britain denies entry to two U.S. commentators who denounced Israel. The authorities did not say why they had barred Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker of popular social media channels, but said their presence may not be conducive to the public good. Yeah, and that's where we're at. Obviously, when this first came out, Cenk put it on the timeline, and that caused us to look back and see that our, my visa was also revoked because Cenk was supposed to be flying out. Cenk and his whole family were supposed to be flying out to the UK. We're doing two events. He's doing South by Southwest separately, or was supposed to do South by Southwest separately. I was supposed to do an event there as well. And then I also had another event with Yanis Varoufakis. And I also had another event at Oxford Union. I was also supposed to do a talk with Corbyn and a talk Zach Polanski as well. Totally separate, right? So I had this entire thing lined up. And it's really interesting because, or at least it's really ironic, because with Oxford Union, I had spoken at Oxford Union prior, if you recall. I delivered this massive speech at Oxford Union a year and a half ago, and the speech was literally about the conflation between Israel and Judaism, and how this is an incredibly dangerous prospect. It's not going to work, and it's going to actually foment more anti-Semitism. That was a year and a half ago. Obviously, things have gotten far worse since then, clearly. And this is far from, I'm not doing this thing where I'm saying like, oh, the number one victims here are, British Jewish people or anything like that. That's not my take at all. Before people yell at me over it and say, oh, you're a Jewish exceptionalist or whatever. But it is a very clear secondary consequence of this sort of endeavor. Consistently claiming that all critics of Israel are rabid anti-Semites, and then quite literally violating the principles of free speech, which, like, obviously there's no First Amendment in the UK, but there is obviously an important liberal value. This is an important liberal value to ensure that there are real conversations taking place. England has quite literally offered refuge to some of the most important thinkers, some of the most controversial thinkers, if you want to call them controversial. Karl Marx. Like, think about that. From the president of the Oxford Union, Arwa El-Rayes, the Oxford Union intended to host Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker on the 6th of June for a discussion and head-to-head event with our members. We are deeply concerned by the revocation of both speakers' electronic travel authorizations on the basis that their appearances would not be conducive to the public good. These events have been publicly announced for months. The 11th hour call signals much more than democratic decline. It is a direct threat to free expression. The Oxford Union was founded on one principle: the ideas are challenged through debate, not silenced by decree. We have never turned a speaker away because of their political beliefs, nor have we sought a permission slip from the state. We will not start now. This event will not be canceled. The union will ensure this discussion takes place. Free speech does not require a visa. We will update our members shortly. This is supposed to be the most redeemable aspect of the Western world in general, okay? Western liberalism in general. This is one of the fundamental values. It's this and due process. And we are eroding both. Free speech and due process are the two most important liberal concepts that throughout centuries at this point, liberals have tried to maintain and defend in spite of everything else. And they're not just core principles that are historically progressive principles. These are core principles that I believe myself. I don't say I'm not a liberal, but this core principle of liberal society, liberal democracy, is one that I believe and champion. It's unironically one of my criticisms of other more ideologically close versions of governance that I have criticized, whether it be within the USSR or whether it be in China, the People's Republic of China. These are my criticisms of the People's Republic of China or the USSR. Ironically enough, that they don't have these sorts of they don't abide by the same attitude when it comes to defending free speech or not due process necessarily, because I think China the due process is fine in China for the most part. But ultimately, yes, due process and free speech are the two things that I believe must be preserved, no matter how we organize our economy. I think that's a good thing. But in any case, the UK has had a very long commitment, or at least tried to abide by some semblance of a commitment to these fundamental values, right? And the fact that they're dropping the ball in this spectacular manner at the behest of Israel, nonetheless, a fascist government, an apartheid government, a fascist apartheid government that's doing a genocide. The fact that they're doing all of this is a disaster, because any sincere person that looks at the situation that isn't totally lost, totally hysterical, will very quickly recognize this is simply being done because of my criticisms of Israel and Cenk's criticisms of Israel. It's not This is not a sincere demand over anti-Semitism. This is not even a conversation on like whether anti-Semites deserve to be banned or anything like that, because this is not about anti-Semitism at all. So the fact that South by Southwest also, after this invitation, turned around and released the shittiest statement of all time, basically saying, "Yep, you're gone. We've deleted you from the page. You are a non-person. Sorry," was really messed up. Zach Polanski also quote retweeted my post that I had retweeted already. Last year, Hassan Piker spoke at the Oxford Union, highlighted the rise of anti-Semitism, fascism, and the dangerous conflation between criticism of Israel and all Jewish people. He was invited to speak again, but pro-Israel groups successfully persuaded the UK government to ban him from entering the country. Zach Polanski quote retweeted, said, "This is a really grim decision alongside Cenk. People often talk about the dangerous road we'd go down under a reform government. This is another clear warning. We're down there already. A Labour government doing everything possible to silence criticism of the Israeli government." And what's really crazy about this is the fact that I've been very critical of the British government as well. I've been very critical of the British government. I've been very critical of the American government. But it's one government that you cannot criticize. It's the Israeli government. It's crazy. Pro-Palestinian U.S. streamer Hassan Piker says UK blocked his entry over criticism of Israel. Yeah, what's crazier for Cenk is that he was going before me and they wouldn't let him get on the plane. They were literally like, "Nope, you can't get on this flight because the government has revoked your visa." He was like, "What the do you mean the government has revoked my visa?" Turns out, yep, the British government had decided you're not allowed to go to the country. What's really funny about this, by the way, is Times of Israel wrote, UK blocks visit by U.S. commentators Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker, who claim it's over Israel. And they take this weird tone, right? Where they're like, "Oh, these guys are crazy. These guys are crazy. Oh, look at them. Oh, they're suspecting Israel of doing this. How stupid." Boom. A couple weeks ago, Jewish groups call on UK to bar dangerous Hassan Piker amid anti-Semitic attacks. It's not that. Here's what's really funny about this. It's the Israel First groups that demanded it. They got their demands across and they celebrated on the timeline saying, "Thank you for making this decision happen." And then they also turn around and try to gaslight to be like, "You're being anti-Semitic. How dare you? How dare you make this strange claim? What's going on? Where did you get this idea from, huh? Where did you get this idea? I don't know. Maybe I have eyes, an ear. I have eyes, ears, a brain. Perhaps that's part of where I got this suspicion from. The f do you mean?" Yeah, if you're wondering why it feels like everyone got more insane, Israel just quintupled its PR budget to $730 million. Experts say it won't work. Yes, I genuinely think they've also hired wreckers on the left as well. I think they've decided a much more successful strategy would be to bring forth complete chaos and try to engage in sectarian infighting, infiltration, not dissimilar to COINTELPRO back in the day, like subversives and wreckers that they have placed in all of these groups, in all of these in all these advocacy organizations that track, that log everything, and they try to all of the conversations up. They try to destroy any sort of like productive output. Genuinely believe this now. I think that's what's going on. It seems very strange the way that a lot of people are talking about this. Now, of course, Times of Israel wasn't the only article that did the, "Oh, where did you get the idea that it's Israel?" There was Fox News did the same thing. Fox News accuses Hassan Piker of anti-Semitism for saying pro-Israel groups lobbied to get him barred from the UK, while itself reporting that British Jewish groups lobbied to get him barred from the UK. Yeah. Hassan Piker gets denied entry to the UK over alleged anti-Semitism, then immediately blames Israel advocacy organizations for wielding unbelievable amounts of power over British policy. The streamer's response to the ban landed on a classic anti-Semitic trope about Jewish influence. Even as he insisted he harbors no anti-Semitism, British Jewish groups and a Labour MP had urged the government to block his visit, citing his comments about Hamas, Hezbollah, and his claim that the U.S. deserved 9/11. The ban caps a brutal stretch for Piker, a Treasury Department subpoena over his Cuba trip, and hecklers confronting him at the Newark ICE process calling him a fraud. Yeah, that's what I mean when I say wreckers, by the way. People that try to present themselves as like leftists, but are not really leftists at all. Like the Black Panther Party guy, like very clearly a Fed, right? But for every dumb that watches, they go, oh, that guy seems to be a real leftist and he's calling it what it is, right? It's not organic. It's absolutely inorganic. But anyway, this was the actual article from Fox News. Hassan Piker says UK Bardem trashes unbelievable power of pro-Israel groups. Jewish groups have publicly urged the government to block the Twitch streamer. All the while, Israel is slaughtering Palestinians en masse. Israel is trying to move further and further into Lebanese territory. It's ridiculous. I don't know what these guys are thinking. Yeah, keep them out. British Jewish groups demand ban on far-left American streamer Hassan Piker. I've spent my whole life combating the far right. My entire professional media career that spans over a decade at this point, fighting against the nefarious and dark forces of Nazism, fascism, the far right, all matter of reactionaries. And I still do it to this day. And I will continue to do it. And part of that is a principled stance against all forms of hatred, which includes anti-Semitism. I've never shied away from that position. I've never shied away from doing that advocacy and fighting that fight. Israel groups, pro-Israel groups, or rather Jewish groups that masquerade as Jewish groups but are actually Israel first, have done a tremendous number to ruin that advocacy. It is virtually impossible. I look like a asshole every time. Every time I'm like, well, you know, Israel and Judaism are separate things. It's not, no one is monolithic. Everyone looks at me like I'm a asshole, dude. I won't stop. And it's not because I want to pay the piper. It's because I genuinely do believe it, right? This is something that I do believe. But it's so difficult to get that point across when so many Jewish advocacy organizations do behave like this. It's just frustrating as hell, man. New quote about you, UK Labour lawmaker on Hassan Piker entry ban. There's no reason to open our doors to those who seek to spread hate and division, especially to those who supported a prescribed terror group. I've been to London so many times. I've spoken in England so many times. I genuinely never thought that it would be a Labour government. Like the Labour has actually gotten far, far worse. I mean, we knew it already, but I never thought that it would get to this degree. I truly thought that Labour would not enable this level of like fascist repression. It's not like I had the best opinion of Labour, right? As you guys know, I'm not shy about, revealing my position, but they're showing your tweets on NBC News. Wait, what do you mean?
Hikers banned two left-wing political commentators from the U.S. from entering the U.K. to speak at public events. Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker said today that they had been blocked because of their views about Israel.
Now, Cenk Uygur also told me that the U.K. didn't give him an exact reason for the ban. He said, quote, "This has reached Kafkaesque levels of absurdity." He talked about how roughly 60% of Americans are critical of Israel. Will we all be banned from the U.K., he says, or just people in the media who report the news accurately? And how does that prove that our governments are not controlled by Israel? Piker on X saying, quote, "The UK has revoked my visa as well, all at the behest of Israel. The West is betraying liberal values for a genocidal fascist foreign government. Soon we will all become Israel," end quote. Now, Piker responded when I reached out to him by sending me this headline from the Times of Israel, quote, "Jewish groups call on UK to bar dangerous Hassan Piker amid anti-Semitic attack." So it's clear in their minds why they were banned. And lastly, Kate, this appears rare but not unheard of for the UK to ban individuals for this reason. Earlier this year, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West was barred under similar grounds.
That's
Right,
ridiculous.
for us. Thank you.
Like, that's a ridiculous comparison.
Exclusive, former First Lady.
That's a ridiculous comparison. I'm sorry. Like, Kanye West was like pro Adolf Hitler. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? You cannot bracket. They haven't uploaded the full segment, only the first 3 minutes. A caller said it's good you were banned because you're a socialist who has money. Yeah, this is the type of shit that actually kills me because, like, I not only have to combat liberalism, I have to combat reactionaries of all different sorts, but then on top of that, I have to combat stupidity in a society that refuses to be smart. And it's getting to be impossible, I think, especially with LLMs, especially with AI, especially with the crisis of illiteracy in the Western world. it's becoming virtually impossible to try to shake people out of this drunken stupor that they find themselves in, where people are just like, you know who my number one op is, dude? A guy who wants me to have healthcare, a guy who wants me to have more autonomy in the workplace, a guy who says no more wars, a guy who I would probably agree with on virtually 99% of issues, but I've been geared into believing is a bad person. It's so strange that they're doing this while also simultaneously trying to present me as some dangerous force, some dangerous reactionary. It is this government that is behaving in a dangerous reactionary manner at the behest of another reactionary fascist government, the Israeli state. This is how the Western liberal capitalist democracies fall apart and make way for fascism. We are making way for fascism. Illiberalism or post-liberalism, whatever you want to call it, is here. Yeah. But I had a statement on South by Southwest. I said, South by Southwest was a minor part of my trip to the UK. They totally didn't defend me or Jake at all. They're actual fucking losers, and I will never work with them for the rest of my life. If you bought a ticket expecting to see me, you should demand a refund. Yeah, it's crazy. I genuinely am shocked that South by Southwest didn't even say, like, this is a real clear-cut violation of the spirit of free speech. Ash, who was the moderator, who we chose as a moderator, pulled out as well. She said, having read the South by Southwest statement on Hassan and Cenk being denied entry to the UK, I'm afraid I have to withdraw my participation. If I were in their shoes, I would hope that any organization which invited me to speak and had their programming interfered with by the Home Office would have had the minimal expected integrity to offer some defense of lawful free expression and condemn government overreach. Thank you for your invitation. Like, it's insane, dude. Did they offer it to still have you speak at a virtual appearance? No, they didn't even. Oxford Union wants to set it up still. But I mean, it's obviously not the same. I feel like it's so cucked to do that, but fuck it, I might still end up doing it. But yeah, no, South by Southwest didn't even care about that. Israel's most loyal propagandists are, of course, denying that the UK banned Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur due to their Israel opposition. They provide no alternative theory to the banning. The ban happened after pro-Israel groups and MPs demanded their visas be denied. Glenn, you are defending people who would bless your being defenestrated from atop a minaret. Get serious. You think Cenk Uygur and Hassan Piker, the gayest non-gay man in existence who lives in West Hollywood, want to murder gay men? I don't like the way that he keeps saying I'm the gayest non-gay man in existence. I am. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I am the gayest non-gay man in existence. It's true. Happy Pride Month, everybody, by the way. This was one of the groups. Board of Deputies of British Jews. Adrian Cohen, acting president of the Board of Deputies of British Jews, has welcomed the government's decision to withdraw electronic travel authorization from a number of extremist individuals whose presence in the UK was deemed not conducive to the public good. We are gravely concerned that our government's announced intentions to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN this month are seen by Hamas as a reward for its violence and rejectionism towards Israel. Today we celebrate the reestablishment of the Jewish state. Yeah, they're just like, they are a Israel first organization, of course. And Zara Sultana had a take as well. We'll take a look at that. Zara Sultana wrote to Shabana Mahmoud, I'm writing to demand that you reconsider and immediately reverse the decision to deny entry to Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur to the United Kingdom. Banning two prominent journalists and political commentators from entering this country is an indefensible decision. It raises serious questions about freedom of expression, the right to challenge government policy, and the extent to which immigration powers are being weaponized as instruments of political control. This is really up too, because for two reasons this is up. One, J.D. Vance quite literally said, we're going to you guys up if you keep doing this like anti-free speech, which of course my government is not going to care about the British government doing this to me, because they meant like, you know, you can't ban fascists. You can't prosecute fascist right-wingers, right? That's what they meant. They didn't mean communist. They didn't mean socialist. They didn't mean certainly anti-Zionist. They love when that happens. It's all free speech only goes in one direction. However, there was some truth to what they were doing, and we've been fighting this. We here have been fighting the British government's ridiculous free expression violations for the last couple of years. Since October 7th, the British government has decided, instead of listening to the demands being made by the masses, the overwhelming majority, which find genocide to be morally repugnant, that wanted to be that wanted to end, right? That don't want their government to be involved in this in the way that the British government has been directly involved in this genocide. And of course, the British government, instead of listening to the demands being made, listening to the demands being made by the masses, have decided to increase the repression. That's what they're. That's the way that they think they can deal with this problem. They think they can silence us. They think they can silence you. They think they can just jail and punish dissidents and hope that it goes away. The other thing that I find quite interesting, like I said, they have proven J.D. Vance to be correct. Okay, not that J.D. Vance was being sincere, but they've proven that he is correct, that J.D. Vance warns against the UK going down a dark path of losing free speech during meeting with David Lammy. They're doing it. And yes, Shabana Mahmood, who banned Hassan Nahan and Cenk Uygur from entering the UK because they oppose Israel's occupation, pictured opposing Israel's occupation in 2014. And it's been really interesting because a lot of the Zionists, who are just unbelievably racist, right? They keep saying like, oh, Shabana Mahmood, you mean the Pakistani woman, the Muslim who was pictured with a Free Palestine placard? That person is pro-Israel. Get over it. Get over yourself. And it's like, yes, these are not real values for these people. Yes. What is the question here? It's not like she's prosecuting every Israeli occupational force war criminal that went out to Gaza to do a genocide to come back and roam freely in Israel. It's not like they're barring entry to Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, into the nation state. They're not. So yes, of course they're pro-Israel. What kind of stupid shit is this? The organization that was demanding my, barring my entry was established in 1760, Board of Deputies for the British Jews. So it's been around for 266 years, which means that for the longest time in its existence, it was not a Zionist institution, as a matter of fact, because it simply couldn't be, because Zionism as a concept, as an ideology, had not existed at that point. Ironically enough, the board became more prominent in British society in the early 20th century due to its support of refugees, notably leading to the ultimately failed campaign against the Aliens Act 1905. However, by 1930s, the board's position has shifted to a more assimilationist position in order to improve the perception of Jews among the non-Jewish British population, including adopting a position on non-Zionism. In 1933, Neville Lasky was elected as the board's president and called for Jews to give overriding consideration of duty and loyalty to the United Kingdom. However, the stance of the board once again had shifted in 1939 with the election of President Selig Brodetsky, who was described by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency as the foremost Zionist in Great Britain. As of 2024, the board has continued to hold a Zionist position. So for hundreds of years, this goddamn institution was doing, of course, like this now Zionist institution was, of course, a non-Zionist institution, was an anti-Zionist institution, because it sincerely cared about the interests of Jews. Every single Jewish institution, and even the entire religion, pretty much, for at least the secular wing, has turned into a project to uphold Zionism. There are plenty of Jews who obviously do not subscribe to this mentality. There's plenty of Jews who say, this doesn't represent me. Those Jews are cast aside. All of the institutions that are supposed to be defending Jews do not end up defending Jews at all, but simply defend Israel and Israel's interests. And all of these free expression defenders on the right and the far right are celebrating, including Nick Fuentes. It's so crazy to me that Nicholas Fuentes, a straight up avowed neo-Nazi, is constantly finding himself handshaking with the Israeli government and its actions of censorship. How strange. Yeah, look at this dickhead. Like, he says, I support terrorism. Yeah, this y'all favorite anti-Zionist hero? The guy who says the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese resistance are terrorists. That's your guy. He is literally the same as Randy Fine, okay? The only difference is Randy Fine is a Jewish supremacist and Nick Fuentes, despite being Mexican, is a white supremacist. They have the exact same criticisms. Our job is to make sure that normies who question Israel become ideologically captured by the right.
I believe our vice president criticized European governments for heavily censoring their own citizens. I agree with that criticism. Has anybody from the State Department reached out on your behalf to make sure you're going to facilitate your entry into...
What a joke. The American State Department. See, that's the other side of this story. That's really interesting. That's the other side of the story that's interesting. This is a violation of American hegemony, right? We are supposed to have a special relationship with the UK where American citizens can easily and freely travel to the UK and not worry about any sort of impediment. So at the behest of Israel, the UK is even violating the power of the American passport. Any true America firster in this circumstance would be unbelievably frustrated at this prospect. And they don't give a shit because America first means being servile to the state of Israel.
No, not yet. So I'll tell you, the one guy who has done something is, you're not going to be shocked, Ro Khanna. He's already on it, and he's reached out to the British ambassador and asking for an answer.
Now, one might make the argument, as I'm sure many have, even on the left, the Groyperified left, say, oh, Hassan, you've always engaged in Jewish supremacy and Jewish exceptionalism because you criticize anti-Semitism as a bigotry, as a dangerous form of bigotry. Well, look how far that got you. Those people don't understand. I don't combat anti-Semitism because I'm paying the piper. I combat anti-Semitism because I think anti-Semitism, just like every other form of bigotry, is still repugnant. It's so strange that there are people out there who legitimately are like, oh, dude, look at you. You won't call out the Jews. You won't call out the Jews. You won't say it's the Jews that are doing this to you. Well, yeah, because I'm not a fucking child. I'm not a fucking idiot. This is fascism. That's what this is. It's Jewish fascism to a certain degree. Absolutely. Jewish supremacy plays a formative role in Zionism. Zionism is fascism, and its expression is certainly defended by a lot of Jewish fascists. It's not like Jews are incapable of being fascist, but the same goes for Christian Zionists as well. Zionism is a supremacist ideology, a Jewish supremacist ideology that is inherently racist. And here, look no further than what took place at the Israel parade yesterday. This is why I say liberal Zionism is still an expression of fascism. Why? Because you have the so-called liberal Zionists like Chuck Schumer standing side by side with ultra-Zionists like Bezalel Smotrich, right? That's why liberal Zionism is inherently contradictory. It's like saying liberal Nazism. Because at the end of the day, when it matters, where it actually matters, you have no functional difference when you're defending the nation state of Israel doing a genocide as a liberal Zionist than Bezalel Smotrich, who supports it to the hill. Yeah, Kathy Hochul, Chuck Schumer, Letitia James. If Nazis are marching in your parade, it's a Nazi parade. Democrats participated in a Nazi parade yesterday. The idea that, like, Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, has a fundamentally different worldview than Bezalel Smotrich doesn't matter. Shame on everyone that went to this parade. A Jewish protection group in Britain, the Community Security Trust, said in an email statement on Monday that it welcomed the decision to block Mr. Piker. While criticism of Israel is entirely legitimate, Piker has a record that goes far beyond robust or controversial political speech, the group said, adding that his language risked fueling anti-Semitism. At a time of record levels of anti-Semitism in the UK, it is right. Oh, God, of course the New York Times is just like covering this and being like, and you know what? These guys are right. This is what I'm talking about. This is precisely what I'm talking about. I just question why you shouldn't be banned for your support of government-designated terrorist organizations. Wait, no, don't ban that guy. Don't block that guy, even though that's funny. It's a little taste of his own medicine. Buddy, you have to understand that analysis over why militant resistance forms against Israel's genocide is a valid conversation to be had, right? And because you can't have that conversation, because you're worried that people are going to agree, because you're worried that people are going to agree, you're like, nope, we should ban you instead. This is literally the problem. This is the problem. So you answer my question. What should people do when Israel is destroying their homeland? What should people do? Should they sit back, play patty cakes, wait for their untimely demise? I'm a political commentator. I can have a different opinion than you on this issue. We can have a normal conversation around it. You can deliver your counterpoints. You can say, no, you don't understand. These entities are actually wrong. They do not actually abide by the international rights given to all peoples to rise up in arms against a colonial occupation. What you can't do is just lean into vague definitions created by the American state with the express purpose of silencing dissent. I just question why you shouldn't be banned for your support of government-designated terrorist organizations. Should we not have a conversation about the designation of terrorism? How can they can resist in ways that doesn't go out of their way to harm civilians? What the f are you talking about, brother? They can resist in ways that doesn't go out of their way to harm civilians. That's your assessment. See how we're having a conversation now? See how we're having a conversation all of a sudden? Yeah, protest peacefully, Hezbollah. Protest peacefully, Palestinians, as there's an ethnic cleansing campaign taking place. Protest peacefully against the ethnic cleansing campaign. Who's killed more civilians, you fucking asshole? The Israeli state or Hezbollah? Who's killed more civilians, the Israeli state or Hamas? The answer is very clear. That's why most people have no retort, no counter message when I say Hamas is 1,000 times better than Israel. Because it's true, like mathematically true. Yeah, protest against chattel slavery, protest against the British occupation of Ireland, protest peacefully, please. Meanwhile, I am doing peaceful protest. I'm a commentator. I'm not a militant. And yet, my travel is being restricted, and I'm currently experiencing repression for my political dissent, and you're over here justifying that. So it doesn't seem like you're in favor of peaceful protest either, jackass. Haven't you realized that you're actually justifying state repression against peaceful protest? When you do that, am I offering material support to any of these state-sponsored, state-designated terrorist organizations? No, I'm not. And yet the state is engaging in repression all the same. At a certain point, you have to realize, like, wait, maybe I don't have a consistent position on this. This is not a justification of targeting civilians. You are saying they're deliberately targeting civilians, for the record. I've never justified that. Were there brutal, unjustifiable acts of violence that civilians had to endure? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen the fucking videos. I know. I saw the girl with the dreads in the back of the pickup truck. That shit is completely unacceptable. If I did, I'd be defending the Israeli state because they do that as a matter of state policy, as a matter of military policy. Palestinians have peacefully protested against the state of Israel over and over again. They've been slaughtered. Yeah. Hezbollah right now is blowing up tanks and military installations on Lebanese soil that Israel is illegally placed. The IDF, on the other hand, are blowing up residential buildings, and its defenders in the Israeli Knesset are demanding more of that death and destruction. Who's actually defending their homeland? Who's actually engaging in colonial conquest? The answer is Israel. Israel is the wrong party here, and the Lebanese population, including the armed military, the armed paramilitary organization Hezbollah that has its own political party within the Lebanese parliament as well, is the wronged party here. And it's really funny that you demand state repression and justify it for a political commentator because you disagree with it, while simultaneously making it seem as though I'm engaging in an act of terrorism. Doesn't need to be peaceful necessarily, but targeting civilians will get you designated as a terrorist group. Do you not agree? No, I don't agree. The American government calls everyone a terrorist if they don't agree with their ultimate goals of liberation, okay? The f are you talking about? And the Israeli government does the same, and the American government gets their notes from the Israeli government. Do you know how many fucking people that Israel has killed? Just thinkers, writers, poets, doctors, activists, organizers that happen to be Palestinian Christians, Palestinian Muslims, and called them terrorists? The whole point of free expression is so we can have a conversation about the silly designation. Hezbollah was not prescribed as a terrorist organization until recently in the British, by the British government, as a matter of fact. Hezbollah and Hamas are not prescribed as terrorist organizations in most of the planet, but it doesn't matter because we live in the Western world and we only care about what America has decided or what Israel has decided as a terrorist organization. Nelson Mandela was on the terrorism watch list until 2008. Do you think he's a terrorist? Perhaps this is a good way to comprehend that the terrorism designation is an unhelpful one and an intentionally vague one, specifically. Oh, here we go. Here's another American terrorist right here, Representative Josh Gottheimer. This from the guy who said Hamas 1,000 times better than Israel after Hamas attempted to exterminate the Jews. Your Nazi detector might be broken, Hassan. The Nazi government considered all Jews to be terrorists. Do you agree with that designation? Or do you have a separate position on this? Do you have a different position on this? Of course, powerful entities that seek to wipe out entire populations will declare all of those populations to be engaging in an act of terror. Do you agree with that? Would you make this assessment? If a government designated Israel as a terrorist organization to ban people for supporting Israel, that would be a fair comparison to make? Yeah, that hasn't happened, unfortunately, with the exception of North Korea. That would be truthful. Let's move beyond state designations. Let's move beyond the legal framework because we're having a conversation about opposing the legal framework. Okay, let's have a conversation about whether you think it's an appropriate thing to do. Yes, also the terrorism designation has no standing in international law anyway. Israel's a apartheid ethno-state that's done a genocide and continuing to expand militarily into Lebanon, Syria, numerous other countries that has destabilized the entire global energy markets because it wanted to kill Iranians and destabilize Iran and destroy Iran, a country with 93 million people. Yeah. Israel just carried out a massacre in Tyre, completely demolishing 3 buildings. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that the people who are fighting back against this are wrong to do so. They're not. They're not wrong to do so. I don't care if the British government considers that to be offensive. The problem here is you can't put yourself in the shoes of people who used to live in those buildings. You think they deserved it. I don't. That's the difference. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who also think that these people kind of deserve it, or they don't even think about this. If you had any shame, if you had any moral compass, you would never sit here and defend baby killers. And yet you are.